Darkness had descended upon the quiet town, casting eerie shadows across the landscape. The wind howled through the trees like a mournful cry, and a shiver ran down my spine as I sat alone in my dimly lit room. My parents were out of town for the weekend, leaving me alone in our old, creaky house. The thought of spending the night by myself sent a chill down my spine, but I assured myself that I was just being paranoid. I decided to distract myself by watching a movie, hoping it would take my mind off the unsettling atmosphere. As the movie played on, I heard the faint sound of a phone ringing in the distance. I paused the movie and strained my ears, trying to locate the source of the sound. It seemed to be coming from downstairs in the living room. Confused, I made my way down the creaky wooden staircase and entered the living room. The ringing was louder now, and I followed the sound to the old rotary phone on a side table. The phone was ancient, a relic from a time before smartphones dominated our lives. Its ringing filled the room with an eerie nostalgia. I picked up the receiver, my heart racing. "Hello?" I said hesitantly. Static crackled on the other end for a moment before a soft, trembling voice came through. "Help me," the voice whispered, barely audible over the static. My pulse quickened. "Who is this? Are you okay?" I asked, feeling a knot of unease forming in my stomach. "They're coming for me," the voice replied, a hint of desperation in its tone. "I don't know where I am. Please, you have to help me." I frowned, trying to make sense of the situation. "How did you get my number? Are you sure you have the right person?" The voice let out a shaky breath. "I dialed a random number. I didn't know who else to call. You have to believe me. They're getting closer." Chills ran down my spine as a sense of dread settled over me. The voice on the other end sounded genuinely terrified. Part of me wanted to hang up and dismiss it as a prank, but something about the urgency in the caller's voice gave me pause. "Okay, just stay on the line," I said, my voice shaking. "I'm going to call the police. Can you tell me anything about where you are?" "They're in the woods," the voice whispered. "I can hear their footsteps. Please hurry." I quickly dialed 911 on my cell phone while keeping the old rotary phone pressed to my ear. The operator answered, and I explained the situation, my heart pounding in my chest. The operator assured me that they would send a patrol car to investigate. As I spoke to the operator, I heard a rustling noise coming from the woods outside my house. My gaze was drawn to the window, and my blood ran cold when I saw a figure emerge from the shadows. A tall, shadowy silhouette moved slowly through the trees, its movements jerky and unnatural. "They're here," the voice on the phone whispered, panic evident in every syllable. I felt a surge of fear unlike anything I had ever experienced. "Lock all the doors and windows," I instructed the caller. "I don't know what's happening, but stay quiet and stay hidden." I rushed around the house, locking every door and window I could find. The rustling outside grew louder, and I could now see more figures moving in the darkness. My heart raced as I realized that whatever was out there was closing in on the house. "I've locked everything," the voice on the phone said, her breath trembling. "Stay on the line with me," I replied, my voice shaky. "The police are on their way. Just hang in there." The minutes felt like an eternity as I stayed on the line with the frightened caller. The noises outside grew louder, and I could hear faint whispers carried on the wind. The shadows seemed to dance just beyond the edges of my vision, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Finally, the sound of sirens cut through the night, and relief washed over me. The caller let out a shaky breath as the police arrived, their flashlight beams cutting through the darkness. I hung up the old rotary phone and hurried outside to meet the officers. They searched the area, but there was no sign of anyone or anything. The woods were empty, the figures having vanished into thin air. The officers assured me that they would keep an eye on the area and left me with a sense of unease. I returned to the house, the events of the night leaving me shaken. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still out there, lurking just beyond my sight. As I locked up for the night and turned off the lights, I couldn't help but glance nervously at the old rotary phone. I crawled into bed, my mind racing with unanswered questions. Who had called me? What had they seen in the woods? And most unsettling of all, were the shadows and whispers still out there, waiting for another opportunity to approach? Sleep was elusive that night, and every creak of the house and rustle of the wind sent shivers down my spine. The events of the night replayed in my mind like a haunting loop, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Eventually, exhaustion overtook me, and I drifted into a fitful sleep. When I woke up the next morning, sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow over the room. The events of the previous night felt like a distant nightmare, but the memory of the panicked voice on the phone lingered. I picked up my cell phone and dialed the number of the old rotary phone, curiosity gnawing at me. The phone rang several times before a click sounded on the other end. Static filled the line and I held my breath, waiting. But this time there was no voice, no whispers, just the crackling of static. A chill ran down my spine as I hung up the phone, my unease returning in full force. As the days turned into weeks, the memory of the phone call continued to haunt me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stumbled upon something otherworldly that night, something beyond my understanding. And as the shadows grew longer and the wind whispered through the trees, I couldn't help but wonder if the darkness was still out there, waiting for its next opportunity to call. Little did I know that the events of that night were far from over, and the mysteries that had been unearthed would lead me down a path I never could have imagined, one filled with darkness, secrets, and a terror beyond my wildest nightmares.